Hey guys, welcome to It's Just Wood. We're going to make another video today. This one is going to be on name puzzles. Now, this is something that I worked on in the past, and it took me a while to actually get these to exactly how I wanted them to be. Uh, so I'm hoping that by me making this video, anybody else that is wanting to make them in the future can maybe have a little bit easier of a time than I did. So, name puzzles, what are they? Well, if you're watching this video, chances are you know what a name puzzle is. But I'm going to show you a name puzzle, and none of these are my photos. All of these are just some that I pulled up on a quick Google search for name puzzles. So a name puzzle is just any piece or any board that you have it. It's two pieces. You have the letters, which are individual pieces on their own, and then you have the backboard, which is routed out so each letter fits in there like a puzzle. And these are actually really good for helping a child learn how to spell their name, also as well as helping them work on their problem solving skills, which is putting the puzzle pieces in where they're supposed to go, as well as learning better eye hand coordination. These weren't around when I was a kid. This is something that's relatively new within the past 5 years or so. I've been selling these for a while on my store, and they sell pretty well. So let's jump right into getting one made. There's no special equipment or anything that you're going to need for this, other than just wood and a CNC router and or laser engraver. Now, for me, I prefer to cut my letters out on the laser cutter because it gives you a lot better. There's not as much waste. You can cut more letters with a laser cutter a lot quicker than you could a CNC. You can still use your CNC, and that's what I did for a while until I got my laser cutter. But I think it just saves you a little bit of time doing them on the laser and cutter. Now, for me, I get half-inch by 6-inch boards from Lowe's that are very clear. They are sold in 3 and 4 foot sections. They're clear to the point that there's no knots or anything in them. It's a lot easier to work with those when you're routing them. They're also prettier for the customers as well. Now, as far as the letters, I use 1/4 inch MDF, and ironically, it you cannot get that at Lowe's. I get that from Home Depot. You could probably get 6-inch boards from Home Depot as well. I just get it from Lowe's because it's quicker or it's closer. But I go to Home Depot 4 or 5 times a year and buy larger quantities of the MDF to bring home and cut up for my letters. So let's jump into it. Now, like I said, the boards that we're going to wind up using is going to be 1/2 inch, and we it's 6 inches wide, which is actually 5.5 inches. And we're going to go for a shorter name for this one, so let's just go with the 12-inch board. So, first of all, let's just pick up a name, and let's go with Susie. So the another thing that's going to actually take you a while is finding the font that you want to use. Now, one that I think works really well, you want a thicker font. You don't want something skinny, something that's going to make bigger pieces for the letters. So let's go with Cooper Black because I think that is a very good font. Now, if you want to do these each one individually, you can use uppercase and lowercase if you want to. But since I sell these quite a bit, I do everything in all in uppercase because it's just a lot easier to keep up with. If you're doing your MDF or on my laser cutter, I cut a bunch of letters at once instead of cutting each name individually. But we're going to do this individually, and we're going to do everything on the CNC. So first off, we need to type our name in, and we're going to go with Susie. And let's go with our letters to be about 3 inches tall. So let's go ahead and let's take that and let's center it Now, I want my letters to be 3 inches tall, but I want to narrow this up a little bit so it all fits on the same piece of wood. Now, if you wanted to, you could go in and you could make this wider, which probably 14, 15 inches. I've cut some boards that are as long as 24 inches for longer names. I don't typically sell them like that because a 24-inch board's a little bit harder for a toddler that's 3 or 4 years old to work with as opposed to one that they can fit in their lap. But we're going to go with this one right here. It's 12 inches wide. So the first thing is we've got our letters. Well, our letters are done. We can ungroup those. But what we would do is if we're going to if we're going to CNC these, we need to separate these out just a little bit. Now you can use really whatever type of wood that you want to. I do not. There are some people out there, and they will probably not be happy with what I'm saying about this, but I do not want to use plywood on these. And the reason I don't want to use plywood is regardless if it's typically the kids that are going to be playing with this are going to be using it are going to be in the 3 to 4 age range. And we know at some point these letters are going to wind up getting put in their mouth. It's inevitable. I mean, it's going to happen. So the reason I don't like using plywood is because we know it's going to wind up going in their mouth, most likely. They're going to wind up chewing on it, most likely. So if it's plywood, there's a high degree of probability that as they chew it, it's going to start splintering and it's going to start sticking into their gums and their teeth. And at that point, you're going to have a lot of unhappy mamas, especially if you're selling these, because it could open up your store to potential litigation. So I use MDF on this, and the reason why is because if they're going to wind up chewing on it, the MDF is going to wind up just breaking apart into almost basically sawdust. Less likelihood of any of this stuff happening. So, but we're going to go ahead and we're going to cut these out. And if you want to do this on MDF, you can design them in 12 by 12 or 12 by 24 sheets. I cut mine down on the table saw into 12 by 12 sheets because it's a lot easier for me to put in a 12 by 12 sheet and cut a full sheet of them as opposed to putting in a 12 by 24 sheet when I'm not saying a lot of people don't have engravers that are cutter engravers that are that big, but for some people just starting out, they're not going to have anything that big that they can really work with. So we're just going to do a couple letters at a time. So what you need to do at this point is you need to open up your Toolpaths tab. Make sure you have all your letters selected, and you can rearrange these however you want to for whatever you're cutting on. And actually, let's change this to 0.25 inches. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to go in and we're going to cut these down to 0.26 inches. Now, since we are going to be doing this on the CNC, we're going to have to put tabs on here. Now, if you were doing this on a laser cutter, you wouldn't have to. So let's just go in through and just throw a couple tabs on everything. So we've got all our letters done, and we want to change over to our 1/8 inch end mill. And the reason is there's a lot of contours and stuff in here, and your 1/4 inch end mill probably will not be able to get in there exactly like you want it to be, which is why we're cutting them a little bit bigger. Yes, we know it's going to cut through, and we want to reset, and we want to let's speed this up. So there we go. So we've got all of our letters cut out. We've got our tabs in here that once this is done and we're ready to go in and actually start getting ready to paint these or whatever you want to do with them, all you would have to do is take a razor knife and cut your tabs out. Take it to a bench sander or whatever and sand it down a little bit where it's a little bit smoother. which is also another reason why I laser cut them, because I don't have to worry about these tabs. But everything looks good. Let's go back and let's take our tabs off and calculate this again. So we've got each one of our letters. So that looks good. So now we need to go back and we need to make the back portion of it. So let's go ahead and let's go back and let's move all of our letters back to where they need to be. Okay, so we need to go in and, well, we don't have to do that step. So let's go back and let's change this to half inch. Whoops, half inch, 5.5, getting little fat fingers here. So let's go in, and what we need to do first is we need to offset everything. And the reason is because we want each letter to fit down in here. Now, if it's extremely tight, then it's going to be hard for a kid to try to get it in there. So we want to offset that just a little bit. Just a little bit of play, a little bit too much play, just to leave enough room for each letter. Now, we see we've got a little problem right here. You can leave that in there if you wanted to like that, or you could move them apart. Let's move those back apart just a little bit. So let's go back and let's do our offset again. Looks pretty good. Now let's go back and let's click delete original. So that all we've got left now is our offset. So now keep in mind, the letters that we cut were a 1/4 inch deep. Now, there's two different ways that you can go about doing this. You can cut with your pocket as a 1/4 inch deep, but then you would have to put little tabs and stuff right here for the kids to get the letters out. Or if you do them like I do, you don't go 0.25 inches deep. You would actually want to go, let's go 0.125 inches deep. So that way we've still got a 1/4 inch of each letter that's sticking up above the board. So that, coupled with our letters that we cut earlier, each letter would fit down in here. Now, when you go through and you route this, you're probably going to have some little frizzies and stuff that are going to wind up sticking up here. Now, me, I go through and I do all my sanding at once, and I take a little bitty piece of sandpaper and I just go right around this lip just to try to get the rough edges and stuff off. So that way, when the kids are playing with it, they're not going to get little cuts or nicks or anything on their fingers. And that would also make a pretty upset mama. Now, you can also play with this and you can use different fonts if you want to for the letters. If you want to go for first, middle, last name, and you wanted to do each one a different font, you could do that as well. Now, for me, I keep all of my letters the same size. So if somebody buys a sign for me today, and if the name was Susie, and then 2 years later, they lose an S or they lose an E. Um, Typical person might think, well, I've just got to replace the whole puzzle. For me, no, because that customer can get on my store 5 years from now and they will be able to order the same, well, assuming my store is still going to be open 5 years from now, they will be able to order the same exact size S from me in 5 years as they get today. And the colors may not be exactly the same, but the letters are going to be the same. So that way, if they're going to have to replace them in the future, they don't have to replace the whole puzzle. They can just replace the individual letters. So really, when you're getting into this, and there's a lot of other different kids puzzles and stuff that use this same concept that aren't exactly names, this just gives you a basic design of how they work. I've been selling these types of puzzles for probably about 3 to 4 years now, maybe. and they've actually been a very good seller for me. It comes and goes in spurts. A lot of people buy these. They're good Easter presents. They're good first or second or third birthday presents, or people get them for Christmas as well. Now, another thing that I throw in with these is, and it takes a little bit more work than what we're going with today, is I use a set of stands, little display stands that this can sit in to hold the puzzle up. So when they're not using the puzzle, it makes a neat little sign for their room. Or after they get old enough that they're not playing with puzzles anymore, they can actually just go ahead and super glue the letters into place. That way, it's just one more thing that they don't have to worry about. But the most important thing is you got to get out in your shop and you've got to start working on these things, because if you don't sell them, somebody else is going to. And if you're wanting to make money, if you've got a CNC cutter, or if you've got a laser cutter and engraver, the main purpose of these machines is for you to make money. And this is just another project that you could throw together real quick. It's a pretty good seller. It's also great if you can make these, if you've got a new mother in the family. This will be a great present for them for their first or second birthday. But in the meantime, just get out there and have fun, and just remember, it's just wood. Also, if you have any questions or concerns, you can drop them below, and I will try to get back with you and answer them if I can. If you don't care, like this video. Also, subscribe to my page so you can try to keep up with all the other videos that I'm already making. But until next time, thanks, guys.